I walked into Meridian Technologies headquarters that Monday morning with butterflies in my stomach, excited for my first day as a junior analyst. The woman behind the HR desk barely glanced up when I introduced myself. Her name tag read Courtney Sutton. Before I could even finish saying my name, she cut me off. "We are terminating you effective immediately," she said coldly. "Security will escort you out." I stood there stunned, but I handed over my badge calmly. "I want to do this right," I told her. "Tell your father-in-law. The board meeting in 2 hours should be interesting." She had absolutely no idea I owned 65% of the company. The security guard who escorted me through the building was an older man with kind eyes. His name tag said Marcus. "I am really sorry about this, miss," he said quietly as we walked past cubicles and conference rooms. "You seem like a nice person." I thanked him and walked to my car in the parking lot. My hands were shaking as I sat behind the wheel. This was not how today was supposed to go. Let me explain something about who I really am. My name is Elena Hartwell. I am 32 years old. The woman Courtney thought she just fired was Elena Ross, a nobody junior analyst. But Elena Ross is my mother's maiden name. My father was Thomas Hartwell, and he founded Meridian Technologies 28 years ago with his best friend, James Sutton. 3 years ago, my father died from a sudden heart attack. He left me 65% of the company in his will. James kept the remaining 35%. My father and James had built this company from nothing, working out of a garage in San Jose, creating innovative software solutions that eventually made them both millionaires. They were not just business partners. They were brothers in every way that mattered except blood. After my father died, I could not face being here. The grief was too raw. I moved to Seattle and worked remotely as a consultant, letting James run the company. He had always told me to trust him, that he would protect my father's legacy. For 3 years, I did trust him. But 6 months ago, I started noticing troubling patterns in the financial reports. Revenue was dropping. Key employees were leaving. Projects were being canceled. I requested to come on-site to assess the situation from the inside, and James agreed. He suggested I use my mother's maiden name to avoid special treatment. I specifically asked to start in a junior analyst position so I could understand the company culture without people treating me differently because of who my father was. I pulled out my phone and texted James. "We need to talk before the board meeting." No response. I called my lawyer, Patricia Martinez. She had helped structure my ownership when my father died, making sure everything was legally airtight. Patricia picked up on the second ring. "Elena," she said, "how is the first day going?" "They fired me." "What?" Her voice went sharp. "They cannot fire you. You are not even technically an employee. You are the majority shareholder doing an internal assessment." "Who fired you?" "The CEO's daughter-in-law, Courtney Sutton." There was a pause. "Elena, something is very wrong here. Stay where you are." "I am pulling up the corporate documents right now." I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away and opened my laptop. Using my shareholder credentials, I accessed the company's shared drive. I navigated through folders until I found one labeled Restructuring Initiative. My stomach dropped as I started reading. Inside were detailed plans to phase out legacy stakeholders and modernize the ownership structure. My father's name was listed under obstacles to progress. There were email chains between Derek and Courtney discussing how to handle the old man, clearly referring to James, and how to neutralize the daughter if she ever shows up. My phone rang. "Patricia." "Elena." "I found something," she said, her voice tight. "There is a document filed last month attempting to challenge the validity of your ownership. They are claiming procedural irregularities in how your father's estate was handled." "That is impossible," I said. "You handled everything. It was perfect." "I know it was. This is a fabricated challenge. Someone is trying to create legal confusion. Elena, you need to get to that board meeting. Whatever is happening, it is happening today." I kept reading through the files. The emails had timestamps. This plan had been created 9 months ago, just 1 month before James invited me to come assess the company. My hands went cold. Did James set me up? Or was he being manipulated by his own son? I found another folder buried deeper in the directory. Financial statements for the past 3 years. I am good with numbers. It is one of the reasons my father taught me the business from a young age. As I analyzed the data, a clear pattern emerged. Meridian Technologies had been profitable and healthy until about 18 months ago. Then suddenly there were massive consulting fees being paid to a shell company called Apex Advisory Group. The amounts were staggering. I cross-referenced the business registration for Apex Advisory Group. The registered agent was Courtney Bradford Sutton. Over the past 18 months, more than $12 million had been siphoned out of the company and into this shell corporation. The company's actual operations were still profitable, but the embezzlement was destroying our cash flow. We were bleeding out while appearing functional on the surface. I called Martin Brooks, the chief technology officer. Martin had been with the company for 15 years. He knew my father well. When he answered, I could hear the surprise in his voice. Elena? Elena Hartwell? I did not know you were in town. I am, Martin. I need to ask you something. What is really going on at Meridian? There was a long pause. Then Martin sighed. It is falling apart, Elena. Derek has been selling off divisions, firing anyone with experience, bringing in his own people. The culture your father built is gone. Everyone is scared. I am probably going to be fired after today's board meeting. What about James? I asked. Is he part of this? Martin's voice dropped. James is not the same man he was when your father was alive. It is like he has given up. He just sits in meetings and nods when Derek talks. I think losing your dad broke something in him. Derek swooped in and positioned himself as the solution to everything. And then Courtney showed up about 2 years ago, married Derek within 6 months, and things got even worse. I thanked Martin and hung up. The picture was becoming clearer. James was not evil. He was defeated and grieving. Derek had taken advantage of his father's weakness. And Courtney had brought expertise in corporate manipulation. I had 90 minutes until the board meeting. I called Patricia back. I need you at that board meeting with every document proving my ownership, I said. Are you sure you want to do this? Patricia asked. Once you reveal yourself, there is no going back. This will get ugly. They are destroying my father's legacy, I said. I am going back. I will be there in 45 minutes, Patricia said. Elena, be careful. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Stay away from the board meeting if you know what is good for you. My heart started pounding. They were watching me. I needed to talk to James directly. If he was being manipulated, he deserved to know the truth before I exposed his son at the board meeting. I drove to the house James shared with his wife Susan in Los Altos Hills, about 20 minutes from the office. Susan answered the door. Her face lit up when she saw me, then immediately filled with concern. Elena, sweetheart, what are you doing here? I thought you were in Seattle. I was. Mrs. Sutton. I came back. Is James home? Susan's expression shifted to something that looked like relief mixed with exhaustion. He is at the office preparing for some big meeting. Elena, can I talk to you for a minute? We sat in her living room, surrounded by photos of happier times, pictures of my father and James from the early days of the company, photos of family barbecues and holiday parties. Susan looked older than I remembered, worn down by something. He is not himself anymore, she said quietly. Derek has him convinced that the company needs aggressive changes to survive. James barely sleeps. He signs whatever Derek puts in front of him. I have tried to talk to him, but he just says I do not understand business. Tell me about Derek, I said. And Courtney. Susan's hands twisted in her lap. Derek moved back from New York 2 years ago after his hedge fund collapsed. He lost everything, including money from investors who trusted him. He was depressed, drinking too much. Then suddenly Courtney appeared in his life. She was working at some corporate consulting firm. They got married within 6 months, which seemed fast. But we were just happy Derek seemed to be doing better. What kind of consulting firm? Susan went to find some papers. She came back with a wedding program. Courtney Bradford, it read. Corporate restructuring specialist at Titan Group. I pulled out my phone and searched for Titan Group. My stomach turned as I read. Titan Group specialized in hostile takeovers and corporate asset stripping. They would identify struggling companies, infiltrate them, and then facilitate their acquisition by larger corporations for a fee. I found 3 news articles about companies where similar patterns had occurred. In each case, a Titan Group employee had married into a family business, and within 2 years the company had been sold off or bankrupted. In 2 of those cases, the Titan employee's name was Courtney Bradford. Mrs. Sutton, I said carefully. I think Courtney married Derek to get access to Meridian. Susan's eyes filled with tears. I have suspected something like that. But what can I do? Derek is my son. I drove to the public library and used their computers to dig deeper into the financial records. With my shareholder access, I pulled up 3 years of detailed statements. The pattern was unmistakable. Until Derek and Courtney's involvement, Meridian had been growing steadily. Then, 18 months ago, the consulting fees to Apex Advisory Group began. Every month, between $600,000 and $900,000 would be transferred out. The invoices were vague. Strategic consulting, operational optimization, market analysis. But there was no actual work being done. I cross-referenced the dates of these payments with company projects and initiatives. None of the consulting fees corresponded to any real deliverables. It was pure embezzlement. I found the business registration for Apex Advisory Group. It had been created 2 years ago, 1 month before Derek and Courtney got married. The business address was a mail forwarding service in Delaware, a common tactic for hiding ownership, but the registered agent information was public record. Courtney Bradford Sutton. Personal address listed. I had proof of over $12 million in fraud. My phone rang. It was Martin Brooks again. Elena, I just heard something disturbing, he said. Derek is telling people that you showed up today but were fired because you are unstable. He is saying you have mental health issues and might try to disrupt the board meeting. They are trying to discredit me before I can even speak, I said. There is more, Martin continued. I just saw a memo that went to the board members. There is going to be a vote today on selling the company to Nexcore Industries. Nexcore was Meridian's biggest competitor. They had been trying to acquire us for years, but my father always refused. How much? I asked. $30 million? My blood went cold. Meridian Technologies was worth at least $70 million. Even with the current cash flow problems, $30 million was a fire sale price. Who benefits from the sale? I asked. According to the term sheet, there are executive retention bonuses. Derek gets $3 million. Courtney gets $5 million for her consulting work. And James gets... Martin paused. James gets $10 million and a board seat at Nexcore. So James was either complicit or being played brilliantly. A grieving, exhausted man being offered a generous exit and a respected position. It would be tempting. Martin, are you going to that board meeting? I asked. I was not planning on it. I am not on the board. I need you there. I need witnesses who knew my father and know what this company was supposed to be. Elena, what are you planning? I am planning to save my father's company. I met Patricia in a parking garage 2 blocks from Meridian headquarters. She had a thick folder of documents. I have everything, she said. Original ownership documents with your father's signature and notarization, the estate paperwork, your shareholder certificates, and I pulled the articles of incorporation showing you have 65% controlling interest. I showed her what I had found. The embezzlement evidence, the shell company, the next core deal. Patricia whistled low. This is massive. Elena, they are going to fight dirty. I know. The forged transfer documents they are going to present, how do we prove they are fake? I thought about this. My father was in the hospital 3 weeks before he died. He was unconscious in the ICU for 2 weeks before the final heart attack. I drove to the hospital and got copies of his medical records. They show he was on life support during the exact dates on the forged documents. He physically could not have signed anything. Patricia smiled. That is perfect. Medical records are ironclad. What about the sale to NextCore? Can we stop it? You are the majority shareholder. No sale can happen without your approval. They can vote all they want, but legally it is meaningless without your signature. Then let us go stop this. We walked into Meridian headquarters together. Marcus, the security guard, saw me and his eyes widened. Miss Ross, I thought you were terminated. I am exactly where I need to be, Marcus. We headed to the elevator. My heart was pounding so hard I thought Patricia could probably hear it. As the elevator climbed to the executive floor on the 10th story, I thought about my father, about how hard he had worked to build something good, about his dreams for this company. The elevator doors opened. Courtney was standing in the hallway talking to a tall man in an expensive suit. He had Jameis eyes. This had to be Derek. When Courtney saw me, the color drained from her face. Derek's expression hardened. You, Courtney said. You need to leave. Security. Elena stepped forward. I am not leaving. I am going to that board meeting. You are not an employee, Derek said coldly. This is a private meeting. You are right, I replied. I am not an employee. I am the owner. Courtney recovered quickly. According to what documentation? We have papers showing your claimed ownership is invalid. Patricia stepped forward. And we have papers showing your documents are forgeries, plus evidence of embezzlement and fraud. Derek's jaw tightened, but he did not back down. This is a private board meeting. You cannot just barge in. Marcus, the security guard, had followed us up. Derek turned to him. Escort these women out of the building. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Sir, I think we need to figure out who actually has authority here. I am the CEO's son. Derek snapped. I am giving you a direct order, but I felt my phone vibrate. A text from an unknown number. There was a photo attached. It showed me sitting in my car in the coffee shop parking lot earlier. The message read, Some people think you should reconsider attending today's meeting. There could be legal complications regarding your claimed ownership. Before I could process this, a black sedan pulled up to the building entrance visible through the lobby windows. 2 men in dark suits got out and headed toward the building entrance. Courtney smiled. Those are our attorneys. They have some documents you are going to want to see. The 2 men entered the lobby and approached us. One of them handed me a manila envelope. Miss Ross, or should we say Miss Hartwell? Some people believe you should reconsider your plans today. I opened the envelope. Inside were legal documents claiming that my father had signed over his shares to James 3 weeks before his death. The signature looked real. The notarization looked legitimate. There was even a witness statement. If these documents were real, I owned nothing. Patricia grabbed the papers and scanned them quickly. Her face went pale. Elena, these are sophisticated. The notary is real. The dates align. We need to verify this. My hands were shaking. I remembered those final weeks with my father. He had his first major heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. He spent 2 weeks in intensive care, unconscious and on life support. Then he woke up for 3 days, just long enough for us to say goodbye. Then his heart failed again and he was gone. Mrs. Martinez, I said to Patricia. My father was in the ICU during the dates on these documents. He was unconscious. He could not have signed anything. Can you prove that? One of the attorneys asked. I can, I said. I have his medical records. Medical records can be misread, Derek said smoothly. And even if there is some confusion about dates, the intent is clear. Thomas always meant for James to run the company. That is not what the will says, Patricia countered. Wills can be contested, the attorney replied, especially when there are questions about the deceased's mental state near the end. I felt rage building in my chest. They were calling my father crazy. They were trying to steal everything he built and erase his wishes. We are going to that board meeting, I said. Derek stepped closer. Elena, right? Let me be very direct with you. You are out of your depth here. Yes, your father started this company, but that was almost 30 years ago. The world has changed. The tech industry has moved on. Meridian needs aggressive restructuring to survive. James understands this. That is why he brought me in. My father built something that lasted nearly 3 decades, I said. You have been here 8 months, and the company is bleeding money. That is because we are investing in the future, Courtney interjected. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. By paying yourselves millions through a fake consulting company? I asked. Courtney's eyes flashed. That is a serious accusation. I hope you have proof. I do. Then bring it to the meeting, Derek said. Let the board decide. But I will warn you. If you make false accusations, we will sue you for defamation. Do you have the resources to fight a lengthy legal battle? He was trying to intimidate me, and I would be lying if I said it was not working. My mouth was dry. My heart was racing, but I thought about my father, about the video he left me, about his last words. Be brave, my darling. Lead the way, I told Derek. We walked down the hallway toward the boardroom. Patricia whispered to me, Are you sure about this? No, I admitted, but I am doing it anyway. Derek opened the boardroom door. Inside, 5 people sat around a large conference table. James was at the head. He looked older than I remembered, tired and worn down. When he saw me, he stood up abruptly. His expression was a mixture of shock and something else. Relief? Elena, he said. Thank God you came. I was not sure you would after this morning. I was confused. You knew about this morning? James looked at Courtney, who had followed us into the room. His expression hardened. I did not authorize your termination, Elena. That was Courtney, acting on her own, which confirms everything I have suspected. The board members were looking between all of us with confused expressions. One of them, a woman with short gray hair, spoke up. James, what is going on? Who is this? James took a deep breath. Everyone. This is Elena Hartwell, Thomas' daughter, and the majority owner of this company. The room erupted in surprised murmurs. James raised his hand for silence. I need to tell you all something, James continued. For the past 6 weeks, I have known that something was very wrong at this company. Money disappearing, good people being fired, projects canceled for no reason. So I hired a private investigator. What I learned shocked me. My son and daughter-in-law have been systematically stealing from this company and planning to sell it out from under all of us. Derek laughed. Dad, you are being paranoid. Elena has clearly manipulated you. I have proof, James said quietly, and I have been waiting for Elena to arrive so she could exercise her legal authority to act on it. Then, Derek played his final card. He pulled out a folder. Dad, before we go any further, I think the board needs to see this. He slid papers across the table. These are psychiatric evaluations of Elena. She has been treated for severe depression and anxiety. She has been hospitalized. There are recommendations that she be placed under a conservatorship. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. What? These are falsified, Patricia said immediately. We will have them verified. That is what someone unstable would say, Courtney added. Elena, look at yourself. You are shaking. You are paranoid. You think everyone is conspiring against you. One of the board members, an older man, looked concerned. These are serious allegations on both sides. I do not have any psychiatric records, I said, my voice shaking. I have never been hospitalized for mental health issues. This is a complete fabrication. Derek leaned back in his chair. The board needs to consider whether someone in Elena's state should be making major corporate decisions. If there is any doubt about her competency, California law allows for emergency conservatorships. And let me guess, I said bitterly. You would volunteer to be my conservator, which would give you control of my shares. I would do it because I care about you, Derek said with false sincerity, and because I care about this company. Patricia started laying out our evidence. The hospital records showing my father was unconscious when the transfer documents were supposedly signed. The shell company records. The embezzlement trail. The company's legal counsel, a sharp-eyed man named Gregory Walsh, examined the documents carefully. James, these hospital records do prove Thomas could not have signed the transfer. The signature on that document is a forgery. Derek's attorneys jumped in with technical objections. The board members were overwhelmed. Accusations flying everywhere. Then James spoke quietly. I have something else. Thomas left something for this exact situation. Everyone turned to look at him. James pulled out a letter from his jacket pocket. Your father gave this to me 3 years ago, right before his first heart attack. He made me promise to give it to you if his legacy was ever threatened. He handed me an envelope. My father's handwriting on the outside read, "For Elena, to be opened only if my life's work is in danger." With shaking hands, I broke the seal. Inside was a letter, handwritten by my father. I started reading aloud, my voice breaking. My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, then my worst fears have come true. The boardroom went completely silent as I read my father's words. I learned 6 months before my death that my heart condition was terminal. My father had written. The doctors gave me maybe a year, possibly less. Once I knew my time was limited, I started paying very close attention to the dynamics of the company I built. I noticed things I had missed before. Derek's gambling debts, his failed business ventures. And I noticed how Courtney appeared in his life so suddenly and attached herself to him like a leech to a wound. I could hear Derek's breathing getting heavier. But I continued reading. Elena, I could not bear to tell James what I suspected about his son. James is my brother in every way that matters. Telling him would destroy him. So instead, I created a failsafe. In the company's main server, there is a folder under my administrator credentials. The password is your birthday backwards plus your mother's middle name. Inside that folder, you will find the truth I could not speak while I was alive. Trust what you see, my darling. And be brave. I love you forever, Dad. The CFO, Sarah Brennan, had a laptop open in front of her. May I? She asked. I nodded. I gave her my father's administrator credentials and the password. She typed quickly, navigating through the server directories. Then she froze, staring at the screen. There is a folder here, she said quietly. It is called Legacy Protection. There are 3 video files inside. Play them, James said, his voice heavy. Sarah connected her laptop to the large screen on the wall. She clicked the first video file. The date stamp showed it was recorded 6 months before my father's death. The video showed my father and James sitting in my father's home office. I recognized the room. The camera must have been hidden somewhere, because neither of them looked at it. James, my father said on the video, I need you to promise me something. No matter what happens after I am gone, no matter what anyone claims, Elena's shares cannot be touched. She is the majority owner. She owns 65%. That can never change. Promise me. James looked emotional on the screen. Thomas, nothing is going to happen to you. You are going to beat this. I am not, my father said gently. The doctors have been clear. My heart is failing. I have maybe a year, So I need you to promise me. Promise me you will protect Elena and her inheritance. James was crying now, both on the screen and in real time in the boardroom. I promise, the James on screen said. Your daughter and your legacy are safe with me. I swear on our friendship. My father looked directly at the camera then, though James did not seem to notice. I am Thomas Hartwell, he said clearly. Today's date is March 14th. I am of sound mind and body, though my heart is failing. I want it stated for the record that I will never, under any circumstances, transfer my shares in Meridian Technologies to anyone except my daughter Elena. If any document ever surfaces claiming I transferred shares to anyone else, it is a forgery and a fraud. This company belongs to Elena. That is my final wish. The video ended. The boardroom was silent except for the sound of James quietly weeping. Play the second one, James said. Sarah clicked the next file. This one was dated 3 months before my father died. The video quality was different, grainier. It took me a moment to realize it was hidden camera footage from a hospital room. My father appeared to be asleep in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting him to various machines. The heart monitor beeped steadily in the background. Then I heard voices. Your father is going to leave everything to Elena, a woman's voice said. I recognized it as Courtney's. We need to act before he dies. What do you suggest? That was Derek's voice. We get James to trust us completely. Then we forge the transfer documents after Thomas dies. By the time anyone figures out what happened, we will have already sold the company and disappeared with the money. What about Elena? Derek asked. We discredit her. Make her seem unstable, or we pay her off with a fraction of what her shares are really worth. Either way, she will not fight us. She has been hiding in Seattle for 3 years. She is weak. The video showed them clearly. There was no question it was Derek and Courtney. They thought my father was unconscious, but he had been awake and aware enough to have a hidden camera running. The video ended. Gregory Walsh, the legal counsel, looked at Derek and Courtney. This is conclusive evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. That video is not admissible, one of Derek's attorneys objected. It was recorded without their knowledge. This is not a criminal trial, Patricia countered. This is a board meeting of a private company. The evidentiary standards are different, and regardless of admissibility in court, this video proves their intent. Derek had gone pale. Those were just hypothetical conversations, he stammered. We never actually did anything. Ronald Drake, one of the board members and an early investor, held up the forged transfer documents. Then what are these? And what about the $12 million paid to Apex Advisory Group? Sarah Brennan added. She had pulled up financial records on her screen. I have been noticing these payments for months but was afraid to question them. Now I understand why. This is embezzlement. James stood up slowly. He looked at Derek with an expression of complete heartbreak. How could you? Thomas was like a brother to me. Elena is like my niece. How could you betray our family like this? Derek's facade cracked. You always cared more about Thomas than your own son. You always put this company above me. I loved you, James said quietly. I gave you every opportunity, but you gambled it all away, and then you came here to steal what Thomas and I built. Courtney was edging toward the door. The security guard Marcus had been standing outside, but now he stepped into the doorway, blocking her path. Mrs. Sutton, I think you should stay. Patricia had already pulled out her phone. I am calling the police, she said. Derek turned on Courtney. This was your plan. You told me we could pull this off. You said you had done this before. My plan? Courtney shouted back. You are the one who needed money because you lost everything. You are the one who came crying to me. They were turning on each other completely. There is a third video, Sarah said quietly. Play it, I said. This video showed my father alone in what looked like his home office, just a week before he died. He looked frail, but his eyes were clear and determined. "Elena," he said, looking directly at the camera, "if you are watching this, I am gone, and you are fighting for our company. I am sorry I could not protect you in person, but I want you to know something important. Meridian Technologies is more than a company. It is a family. Not a blood family, but a family built on shared dreams and mutual respect. James is a good man. He will have made mistakes by the time you see this. His weakness has always been his blind love for his son. But his heart is right. Trust him." My father coughed, took a moment to collect himself. "The employees of this company are the real soul of what we built. They are engineers and designers and analysts who believed in our vision. Do not let anyone destroy what we created. Not for money, not for revenge, not for anything. You are strong enough to lead this company, Elena. Your mother and I always knew it. You are more like me than you realize. When things get hard, you dig in. When people betray you, you do not crumble. You fight back with integrity." He smiled then, that gentle smile I remembered so well. "The best revenge is not destruction, my darling. It is building something so good, so valuable, so meaningful that the betrayers become irrelevant. They wanted to take this from you. Do not let them. But more importantly, do not let their poison turn you bitter. Lead with compassion. Lead with strength. Lead with the values that made this company great in the first place." His expression grew serious. "I love you, Elena. I am so proud of the woman you have become. Make me proud of the leader I know you can be." The video ended. I was crying. James was crying. Several board members were wiping their eyes. Even Marcus, the security guard, looked emotional. Then the door burst open, and 2 police officers entered, followed by Patricia. "I called them from outside," Patricia explained. The officers looked at Gregory Walsh. "We received a report of corporate fraud?" Gregory handed them the folder of evidence. "Derek Sutton and Courtney Sutton are accused of embezzlement, fraud, and forgery. We have video evidence of their conspiracy and financial records showing $12 million in fraudulent transfers." Derek tried to speak. "We can explain. This is all a misunderstanding." "Save it for your lawyer," one of the officers said. He pulled out handcuffs. "Derek Sutton, you are under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." As they read Derek his rights, Courtney tried one last time to run. Marcus gently but firmly caught her arm. She turned on Derek. "This is your fault. You said your father would never suspect anything. You said we would be gone before anyone figured it out. You are the corporate raider," Derek shouted back. "This was your expertise. Both of you need to be quiet and come with us," the second officer said, handcuffing Courtney. As they were being let out, Derek looked back at James one last time. "Dad," he said weakly. James turned away. That was the final rejection, and Derek seemed to collapse inward. The officers escorted them both out of the boardroom. The remaining board members sat in stunned silence. Finally, Margaret Holloway, an independent director, spoke. "James, Elena, I do not even know where to begin." I stood up, willing my voice to be steady. "As the majority shareholder of Meridian Technologies, I want to make the following motions. First, Derek Sutton and Courtney Sutton are removed from all positions in this company effective immediately. Second, all financial transactions they initiated are frozen pending a complete audit. Third, the proposed sale to Nextcore Industries is canceled. Fourth, we are pressing full charges for embezzlement and fraud." "I second all of those motions," Margaret said immediately. The vote was unanimous. "Elena," Ronald Drake said, "what happens now with the company's leadership?" I looked at James. "This is still your company too. What do you think?" James looked exhausted and broken. "Elena, your father would want you to lead now. I will support you however I can. But this needs to be your company. I failed in my duty to protect it. I will not fail again by standing in your way. I am not ready to be CEO, I admitted. But I am ready to be an active owner. James, I want you to stay on as CEO, but with conditions. Full transparency, monthly reports, and I want the employees who were wrongfully fired to be brought back. This company needs to return to the values my father built it on. I can agree to those terms, James said. One more thing, I added. I want Martin Brooks promoted to Chief Operating Officer, and I want a full cultural assessment done by an independent firm. We need to understand how things went this wrong and make sure it never happens again. The board approved everything unanimously. As the meeting broke up, James pulled me aside. Elena, I am so sorry. I should have protected you better. I should have seen what Derek was doing sooner. You tried to protect everyone, I said. That is not a weakness, James. But we both need to learn from this. Your father would be proud of you, James said, his voice breaking. You fought for his legacy. You were braver than I was. We were both brave when it mattered, I said. That is what he would want us to remember. The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Patricia coordinated with the police to ensure all the evidence was properly documented. Gregory Walsh began the process of freezing Apex Advisory Group's assets to recover as much of the stolen money as possible. Sarah Brennan started a comprehensive financial audit. I sat in what had been my father's office, which Derek had taken over. I needed a moment alone to process everything that had happened. That is when I found the photo. It was face down in a drawer, as though Derek had hidden it. The photo showed my father and James from the company's founding 28 years ago. They were young, maybe in their early 30s, standing in front of a garage with a hand-painted sign that read Meridian Technologies. They looked excited, hopeful, ready to conquer the world. I put the photo back on the desk where it belonged. A knock on the door startled me. It was Martin Brooks. Elena, I just heard what happened in the board meeting. Is it true? You own the company? 65%, I confirmed. My father left it to me when he died. Martin sat down heavily. I wish I had known. I could have helped you sooner. A lot of us suspected something was wrong, but we did not know how to fight it. Tell me about the other employees who were fired, I said. Martin pulled out a list from his pocket. He had been prepared. Over the past 6 months, Derek and Courtney fired 12 senior employees. Each one was experienced, loyal to the company, and had asked uncomfortable questions about the new direction. They were eliminated systematically. He handed me the list. I recognized some of the names. Jennifer Wu had been a brilliant project manager who worked directly with my father. Aaron Grant was a senior software engineer with 15 years at the company. Others I did not know personally, but Martin vouched for each of them. What if we brought them back? I asked. Martin's eyes lit up. That would be incredible. But some of them found other jobs. They might not want to return. Let us at least try, I said. Can you start making calls? Within the hour, Martin and I were reaching out to each person on the list. The first call was to Jennifer Wu. Jennifer, this is Elena Hartwell, Thomas' daughter. There was a long pause. Elena? I had no idea you were involved with the company. I explained everything that had happened. Jennifer, you were fired unjustly. I want to offer you your position back, with back pay for the months you were gone. I could hear emotion in Jennifer's voice. Your father was one of the best bosses I ever had. If you are bringing back his values, then yes, I am in. One by one, we made the calls. 9 of the 12 agreed to return immediately. 2 had found positions they were happy with but offered to consult part-time. One person, Aaron Grant, was still bitter. I appreciate the offer, Elena, he said, but what happened to me and my family those months I was unemployed? That does not just go away. I understand, I said. And I am not asking you to forget, but I am asking you to help me rebuild something your work helped create. We need people who remember what this company was supposed to be. There was a long silence. Let me think about it, Aaron finally said. That was not a yes, but it was not a no either. As evening approached, James found me still in the office. Elena, you need to rest. This has been an overwhelming day. I know, I said, but there is so much to do. The media is going to be all over this story. CEO's son arrested for embezzlement. We need to get ahead of it. Gregory and Patricia are working on a press release, James said. We are going to be transparent about what happened. We will acknowledge the fraud, explain the steps we are taking to recover and rebuild, and commit to operating with complete integrity going forward. What about the company's finances? I asked. How bad is it really? James sighed. With the embezzled funds gone, we have about 6 months of operating capital. We need to either recover the stolen money or find new investment. Several key projects were canceled by Derek, which hurt our market position. And morale is at an all-time low. People are scared about what comes next. Then we need to talk to the employees, I said. Right now. All of them. They deserve to know what is happening. An hour later, about 80 employees gathered in the main atrium of the building. I stood on the second-floor balcony so everyone could see me. My hands were shaking, but I took a deep breath and began. My name is Elena Hartwell. Most of you do not know me, but my father was Thomas Hartwell, who founded this company with James Sutton. When my father died 3 years ago, he left me the majority ownership of Meridian. I have been a silent partner, living in Seattle, trusting others to protect his legacy. That was a mistake. I could see confusion and curiosity on the faces below. I continued. Today, you all saw police escort Derek and Courtney Sutton out of this building. I want you to know why. For the past 18 months, they have been systematically stealing from this company. Over $12 million was embezzled through fake consulting fees. Good employees were fired for asking questions. Projects were canceled not because they were not viable, but because they drew attention to the fraud. The company you thought you worked for was being destroyed from the inside. The crowd was silent, absorbing this information. I know the past months have been difficult. People you worked with and respected were suddenly gone. Projects you cared about vanished. The culture that made Meridian special was replaced with fear and uncertainty. I am here to tell you that ends today. I could see some people nodding, others still skeptical. We are bringing back the employees who were wrongfully fired. We are reviving the projects that were canceled for wrong reasons. We are returning to the principles my father built this company on. Treat people with respect, build great products, and success will follow. This will not be easy. We have financial challenges to overcome, but I believe we can do this together. A young woman raised her hand. She looked nervous. Are you going to be the new CEO? No, I said honestly. I am not ready for that. James Sutton will continue as CEO, but I will be actively involved as the majority owner. I will be here, in this building, working alongside all of you. You will see me. You will be able to talk to me. This is not going to be leadership from a distance anymore. Another hand went up, an older engineer. What happens if we cannot recover the stolen money? Will there be layoffs? I will not lie to you, I said. We are facing financial challenges, but layoffs will be the last resort, not the first. We are going to explore every other option first, and I am personally committed to making sure this company survives. The questions continued for another 30 minutes. When the meeting finally ended, the mood had shifted. People were not exactly optimistic, but they were no longer afraid. That felt like progress. Later that evening, James and I talked privately. Susan had come to pick him up, and when she saw me, she hugged me tightly. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not giving up on him. After Susan left to wait in the car, James and I stood in the parking lot under the streetlights. Do you want me to resign? James asked quietly. I would understand if you did. I thought about this carefully. James, you made mistakes. You trusted the wrong person. You signed things without reading them carefully enough. But when it mattered, you chose integrity over your own son. That takes courage. It does not feel courageous, James said. It feels like I failed as a father. Maybe, I said. But you succeeded as my father's partner. You kept the promise you made to him in that video. You protected me and the company when it really counted. What happens now? He asked. Now we rebuild, I said. Together. The way my father would have wanted. James nodded. Then he said something that surprised me. Elena, I have been thinking. I need to step back from some of my duties. I am 64 years old. I am tired. Would you consider a co-CEO arrangement? You and me, leading together, while you learn the business. I thought about this. It was terrifying. But it also felt right. Yes, I said. Let us do that. We shook hands in the parking lot, sealing a new partnership built on the foundation of what our fathers had created. As I drove home that night, I finally let myself feel the full weight of the day. I cried for my father, wishing he could have seen me fight for his legacy. I cried for James, who had lost his son to greed. I cried for the company that had almost been destroyed. And I cried with relief that we had saved it. But underneath the tears was something else. A sense of purpose. A feeling that I was finally where I was supposed to be, doing what I was meant to do. My father had been right. I was strong enough for this. Over the next 3 months, we worked relentlessly to rebuild Meridian Technologies. It was not easy. Every day brought new challenges. But slowly, steadily, things began to improve. The legal process moved forward. Derek and Courtney both pled guilty to embezzlement and fraud as part of plea agreements. Derek received 4 years in prison. Courtney, who had masterminded the scheme and had a history of similar frauds at other companies, received 6 years. Their guilty pleas meant we avoided a lengthy trial, which helped the company move forward. More importantly, it meant we could focus on asset recovery. Patricia and Gregory worked with prosecutors to freeze and seize assets. Through various accounts, properties, and investments, we recovered $8 million of the $12 million that had been stolen. The remaining $4 million was gone, likely hidden in accounts we could not trace. But $8 million was enough to stabilize our operations. The financial audit revealed other problems Derek had created. He had canceled 3 major projects that were actually profitable and close to completion. We immediately restarted those projects. Within 2 months, we delivered the first one to a major client, generating $3 million in revenue and restoring confidence in our ability to deliver. Jennifer Wu, who returned as project manager, led that effort. The day we delivered the project, she stopped by my office. Your father taught me something important, she said. He told me that the best projects are not just about technology. They are about solving real problems for real people. That is what made this successful. We remembered who we were building for. The cultural transformation was harder than the financial recovery. People had been scared for so long that it took time for them to trust again. We brought in an organizational consultant, Dr. Rachel Patterson, to help us understand what had gone wrong and how to fix it. Dr. Patterson interviewed over 50 employees. Her report was sobering. She found that Derek and Courtney had created a culture of fear and intimidation. People who asked questions were labeled as not team players. Employees who challenged decisions were seen as threats. Innovation had died because everyone was afraid to take risks. Her recommendations were clear. We needed transparency, psychological safety, and genuine two-way communication. We implemented monthly all-staff meetings where anyone could ask questions. We created anonymous feedback systems. We established clear values and held everyone, including leadership, accountable to them. Marcus, the security guard who had stood up for me during the board meeting confrontation, became a symbol of the culture we were trying to build. I promoted him to head of security. When people asked why, I explained. Marcus chose integrity over following orders from people in power. That is exactly the kind of person we want in leadership. We need people who will do what is right, not what is easy. The story of Marcus' promotion spread through the company. It sent a message. We were serious about our values. Martin Brooks, now Chief Operating Officer, became my closest advisor. He had institutional knowledge going back 15 years. He knew which employees were truly talented and which processes actually worked. Together, we made decisions about reorganizing departments, allocating resources, and setting strategic priorities. One afternoon, Martin and I were reviewing project timelines when he said something that struck me. You know what is different about working for you versus Derek? You ask questions because you want to understand, not because you are looking for someone to blame. That changes everything. There were setbacks. Aaron Grant, the senior engineer who had been fired and was initially reluctant to return, finally agreed to come back. But 2 weeks later, he resigned again. I cannot do it, he told me. Every time I walk into this building, I remember being escorted out by security while my colleagues watched. The humiliation does not just go away because you apologized. I understood. Some wounds run too deep. I gave him a generous severance package and a reference letter. Sometimes the best you can do is acknowledge harm and accept that you cannot fix everything. James and I settled into our co-CEO arrangement. We divided responsibilities based on our strengths. James handled investor relations, strategic partnerships, and board management. I focused on product development, company culture, and operational efficiency. We met every morning at 7 to align our priorities and make decisions together. Slowly, James seemed to come back to life. The exhaustion that had marked his face during Derek's time faded. He smiled more. He engaged with employees. One day he told me something that explained the change. I had given up, he admitted. After Thomas died, I felt like I had lost my purpose. Derek came in and took over, and part of me was relieved. I did not want to lead anymore, but watching him destroy everything we built, and then seeing you fight to save it, reminded me why Thomas and I started this company. We wanted to build something meaningful. I had forgotten that. Thank you for reminding me. The media attention was intense for about 3 weeks. Business publications ran stories about the corporate fraud and my unexpected emergence as a leader. Some articles were sympathetic. Others were skeptical, questioning whether someone with my limited executive experience could really save the company. I ignored most of it. Patricia handled media relations, giving measured statements that focused on facts rather than drama. We refused to turn this into a soap opera. This was about business integrity, not entertainment. 3 months after the board meeting, we held a celebration. We had completed the financial audit, recovered most of the stolen funds, delivered 2 major projects, and brought the company back to profitability. Nothing extravagant, just pizza and beer in the office atrium on a Friday afternoon. I stood on the same balcony where I had addressed everyone 3 months earlier. This time, the mood was completely different. 3 months ago, I stood here and told you we were going to rebuild this company. You did not know if you could trust me. Honestly, I did not know if I could do it. But you gave me a chance. More importantly, you gave yourselves a chance. You could have left for other jobs. Many of you had offers, but you stayed. You believed we could fix this. And you were right. The applause was genuine and warm. We still have challenges ahead. We are not back to where we were before Derek's damage. But we are moving in the right direction, and we are doing it together. With integrity and transparency. That is what my father would have wanted. Thank you for making him proud. Later that evening, after everyone had left, I was alone in the office. I opened my laptop and watched my father's video one more time. His voice, his smile, his certainty that I could do this. I hope I am making you proud, Dad, I whispered to the screen. My phone buzzed. A text from James. Dinner next week with Susan and me? We would love to have you. I smiled and texted back. I would love that. Family, I realized, was not just about blood. It was about the people who showed up when things got hard, who fought alongside you, who believed in you even when you doubted yourself. I looked around the office, at the photo of my father and James from the company's founding, at the projects being completed, at the teams working together again. We had not just saved a company, we had reclaimed a legacy, and that meant everything. 6 months after that day when Courtney tried to fire me, I sat in my office looking at financial reports with genuine satisfaction. Meridian Technologies was not just surviving. We were thriving. The stolen money recovery had given us the breathing room we needed. With $8 million back in our accounts and our operations stabilized, we had been able to invest in the projects that Derek had canceled. Those investments were paying off. Our revenue for the quarter was up 23% compared to the same period the previous year. More importantly, employee satisfaction scores had jumped from 49% to 87%. People wanted to work here again. We had received over 300 applications for open positions in the past month alone. Jennifer Wu had been promoted to Vice President of Product Development. Under her leadership, we had launched 2 innovative products that were getting significant market attention. One of them, a cloud-based collaboration tool for remote teams, had been featured in several technology publications. Martin Brooks, as Chief Operating Officer, had streamlined our processes and eliminated the bureaucratic barriers that Derek had created. Decisions that used to take weeks now took days. Teams could move quickly without sacrificing quality. The company culture had fundamentally shifted. The fear that had permeated every interaction was gone. In its place was something my father would have recognized: a sense of shared purpose and mutual respect. We instituted quarterly all-hands meetings where anyone could ask any question. The first few meetings, people were hesitant. They were not sure if this was real or just another management trick, but when we answered tough questions honestly, admitted our mistakes, and actually implemented suggestions from employees, trust began to build. James and I had settled into a rhythm as co-CEOs that worked surprisingly well. He brought wisdom and experience. I brought fresh perspectives and a willingness to challenge assumptions. Together, we made better decisions than either of us would have alone. Susan, James' wife, had become a friend. We had dinner together, at least twice a month. She told me that James was happier than he had been in years. Losing Derek to prison broke his heart, she said. But in a strange way, it also freed him. He does not have to pretend anymore. He does not have to protect Derek from consequences. He can just be honest about who he is and what he believes. Derek had written to me from prison. 3 months into his sentence, a letter arrived. It was surprisingly thoughtful. "Elena," he wrote, "I have had a lot of time to think about what I did and why I did it. I told myself I deserved to run the company because I am James' son. I told myself you did not really care about Meridian because you stayed in Seattle. I told myself my father loved Thomas more than he loved me, so I was justified in taking what should have been mine. None of that was true. I was jealous, resentful, and entitled. Courtney exploited those weaknesses, but they were my weaknesses to begin with. I made choices that hurt people who trusted me. I destroyed something good because I could not handle not being the center of attention. I am sorry. I know that does not fix anything. But I wanted you to know that I take full responsibility. I hope you and my father can build something worth protecting." I showed the letter to James. He read it silently, tears running down his face. "Do you want to respond?" I asked gently. "Not yet," James said. "Maybe someday, but not yet." I wrote back to Derek once. I told him I forgave him, but that forgiveness did not erase consequences. I told him I hoped he would use his time in prison to become someone better. I never heard from him again, and I was at peace with that. Courtney never reached out. According to Patricia, who kept track of the legal proceedings, Courtney remained defiant throughout her sentencing. She claimed she had done nothing wrong, that she was just helping Derek secure what should have been his inheritance. The judge was not sympathetic. On the 6-month anniversary of the board meeting, we held another company gathering. This time, it was not pizza in the atrium. We rented a nice event space and invited all employees, plus the ones who had been wrongfully fired and chose not to return. We wanted to acknowledge everyone who had been part of the journey. I gave a speech that I had worked on for weeks. 6 months ago, this company was on the verge of destruction. Not because our products were bad or because our people were not talented. We were failing because we had lost sight of what made us special. My father built Meridian on a simple principle: treat people with dignity, build things that matter, and success will follow. We lost that. Today, we are finding it again. I looked around the room at faces I now knew well. People who had believed in us when they had every reason to leave. I have learned some important lessons in these 6 months. I learned that trust is not inherited, it is earned. I learned that just because someone shares your history does not mean they share your values. I learned that hiding from responsibility does not protect you from pain. It just delays it and makes it worse. Most importantly, I learned that real leadership is not about being the smartest person in the room. It is about creating space for everyone's intelligence to contribute. The applause was warm. After my speech, we opened the floor for others to share their experiences. Person after person stood up and talked about what the past 6 months had meant to them, about feeling valued again, about being excited to come to work, about being proud to tell people where they worked. Jennifer Wu shared something that made me cry. She said, "Thomas Hartwell once told me that a company is just people working towards something bigger than themselves. For a while, we forgot that. We became afraid to care about anything beyond our own survival. Thank you, Elena, for reminding us that we can be part of something meaningful." Later that evening, after the event ended, I drove to the cemetery where my father was buried. I sat by his grave, updating him on everything as I often did. "We did it, Dad," I said. "We saved the company. More than that, we made it better. James is himself again. The employees are happy. We are building things that matter. I think you would be proud." I placed fresh flowers on his grave and sat quietly for a while. A breeze rustled the trees overhead. For a moment, I could almost feel my father's presence. That sense of calm certainty he always radiated. People ask me what I learned from almost losing everything. The answer is complex, but it comes down to this: legacy is not something you inherit. It is something you choose every single day through your actions. My father left me 65% of a company, but that was not my legacy. My legacy is what I chose to do with that gift. I could have sold it, cashed out, and walked away rich. Derek and Courtney tried to steal it and destroy it. I chose to fight for it, rebuild it, and make it worthy of my father's dreams. I learned that trust without verification is not wisdom, it is naivety. I trusted James to protect my interests while I hid in Seattle. That was a mistake. Not because James was untrustworthy, but because I abdicated my responsibility. You cannot protect something if you are not willing to show up for it. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing what is right even when you are terrified. I was shaking when I walked into that board meeting. I had no idea if I could actually save the company, but I showed up anyway. Sometimes that is all courage is. Just showing up when it would be easier to run away. I learned that some relationships cannot be saved. Aaron Grant could not come back to work here, despite my apologies and attempts to make things right. Derek will probably never have a real relationship with his father again. Some wounds are too deep. The best you can do is acknowledge the harm, learn from it, and do better going forward. Most importantly, I learned that the best revenge is not destruction. It is building something so good, so valuable, so meaningful, that the betrayers become irrelevant. Derek and Courtney wanted to take this company from me. Instead, I built it into something better than it was before they tried to destroy it. That is the ultimate victory. I visit my father's grave once a month. I tell him about challenges we are facing, decisions we are making, Successes we are celebrating. I imagine what advice he would give. Usually, I already know the answer. He taught me well. James and I continue to lead together. He is teaching me the skills I will need when he eventually retires. I am teaching him to embrace change and take risks again. It is a partnership built on honesty, mutual respect, and shared values. The company continues to grow. We opened a new office in Austin, Texas last month. We hired 75 new employees this quarter. We are developing products that actually solve problems for people. This is not just about profit, though we are profitable. It is about doing work that matters. Sometimes on quiet mornings, I walk through the office before everyone arrives. I look at the workstations, the projects being developed, the culture we have rebuilt. I think about that day 6 months ago when Courtney tried to fire me. How different everything could have been if I had just accepted it and walked away. But I did not walk away. I fought back. Not with anger or revenge, but with integrity and determination. I honored my father's legacy by being worthy of it. That is the lesson I want to share. You cannot control what people do to you. Derek and Courtney tried to steal everything. But you can control how you respond. You can choose to be bitter. Or you can choose to build something better. You can hide from challenges, or you can face them with courage. You can let betrayal define you, or you can let your response to betrayal reveal your character. I chose to fight for what was right. I chose to lead with integrity. I chose to honor my father's memory by protecting what he built and making it even better. And every single day, I make that choice again, because legacy is not about what you inherit. It is about what you do with it. It is about the values you uphold, the people you protect, the work you do. My father once said that a company is just people working towards something bigger than themselves. Derek and Courtney saw dollar signs and power. But the real power was always in treating people with dignity, building things that matter, and creating something worth fighting for. That is not just a business philosophy. That is a way of living, and it is worth every moment of the fight. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where everything you care about is threatened, remember this: you are stronger than you think. You are braver than you know. And the best way to honor what matters to you is to show up, fight with integrity, and build something worthy of the legacy you want to leave. That is what I learned. That is what I am still learning every single day. And that is what I hope my father sees when he looks down at what we have built. We did not just save a company. We reclaimed a dream. We proved that integrity matters, that courage counts, and that doing the right thing is always worth the cost. And in the end, that is the only legacy that truly matters. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up for something you believed in, even when it felt terrifying? Have you ever had to fight to protect something that mattered to you? How did you find the courage to keep going when things looked impossible? Share your stories in the comments below. I read every single one. And your experiences inspire me to keep leading with integrity. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps other people find these stories and reminds us all that courage and integrity matter. Subscribe to this channel for more stories about real people facing real challenges and finding the strength to overcome them. And please share this video with someone who might need to hear this message today. We all need reminders that we are stronger than we think. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this community. And thank you for believing that integrity, courage, and doing the right thing still matter in this world. Keep fighting for what matters. Keep showing up with courage. Keep building legacies worth protecting. I believe in you, and I am grateful you are here.